All right, so some of the contenders to be Vice President Kamala Harris's running mate stumping hard for her campaign right now, and they're out and about doing their thing. New reporting from NBC News says that Vice President Harris and her yet-to-be-named running mate will hit the campaign trail next week on a battleground state tour, the latest indication that her VP selection process is nearing its end. In the past week, they have helped the campaign expand its footprint a little bit, hosting events across the country and sharpening the message around her candidacy, like Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro with his message of freedom, which was also the message of Harris's first ad, as well as Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and his message of just how weird Donald Trump is, really, and J.D. Vance and their MAGA allies, how that all plays out. It's a message that many Democrats have taken and run with. So let's get into that a little bit with our panel, Tim, Cornell, and Donnie. So, Tim, why do you think the weird framing message seems to have caught on? Is it because a lot of folks out there already think these folks are weird?
I think it's bottom up. I've been saying they should do this for a while. It really worked. If you look back to the Arizona Senate race with Mark Kelly, who's another VP contender you didn't mention, against Blake Masters, who is really in the mold of J.D. Vance in a lot of ways, just both from a policy standpoint as one of these nationalist MAGA guys, but also as a pretty weird dude. That was something that showed up in that race a bunch, just this idea that Blake Masters felt very creepy, and it turned off voters, and he ended up doing worse than Kari Lake in that election for a sense of how poorly he did. So I think that there's a model for this working. I think that voters think about it. And in J.D. Vance's case, there's something about Trump. We all agree Trump's weird, and he puts on all the makeup and he sprays his hair, and like this whole thing is weird, but it's kind of in this performer way, reality TV show host way. J.D. Vance's weirdness is in a much creepier way, in like I care deeply about when women should bear their children type of way. And like that sort of creepy authoritarian weirdness, I think, is really kind of splashing over onto Trump and making that hit a lot more potent than if it was just about Trump and the electrocuted sharks or whatever.
Donnie, how does the brand thing stick? The weird branding thing stick the way it's sticking. It is amazing how that has bubbled up and really is kind of framing this campaign in a way I don't think people thought it would.
I want to piggyback on Tim because I think it brings up a great point. Everything about Trump, his hair, the things he says, was kind of baked in. And it was kind of, I don't want to say part of his charm because I hate to use the word charm with him, but part of his weird appeal. I'm using that word weird. Vance took it to a different place. That cat lady comment is something that sticks. That's a weird, twisted, cruel thought that, he's not going to get past that. When you go after women who have either chosen not to have children or can't have children and say they're not part of us, you're over there. That goes into the cruel and weird, and like, where do you even come up with that? Like, that's just the thinking is so twisted. And I think the weird is a great word. I like it because it covers a lot of sins underneath.
It does, doesn't it?
It really does. And so I know Tim Walz has been hitting it a lot. I mean, you can show a mashup of showing 80 people saying weird. I don't think it's anything that's calculated. I think it just kind of comes out of people's mouths. Yeah, and that's what makes it effective.
It really is an organic aspect. And I think that's one of the things, Cornell, about this campaign that is so rich is the organic nature of it and how this plays out, particularly now that you're moving into this space where she's going to make a vice presidential pick. They're going to be out campaigning together next week. I mean, I can ask the obvious question, who that will be. Who do you think that will be with her? But I also want to tag along to the point that Tim and Donnie are making, how that candidate can further that narrative, whether it's the weird aspect of the Trump-Vance campaign, how the voters are responding at this moment. It has a really interesting organic feel to it.
It does, and the best things, and look, some of my best friends are consultants, and I'm a consultant. But the best things about campaigns usually don't come from the consultants, right? It usually comes from.
I've been trying to tell campaigns that for years, by the way, Cornell. Just
consultants make too much money. They don't want to hear
too much money.
Right. We should cut back on consultants after they pay me. So So, but it is. It's like it's from the young people. You know, it's the same thing as brat, and it's weird, and all this other thing. So it's really organic, and it's something that the young people, that sticks to these young people who look. We've gotten all we're going to get out of Donald Trump as Darth Vader, right? We painted Donald Trump as Darth Vader, as dark, gloom and doom and evil for the last couple of years, and that has given us a certain percentage of the vote. But the weird thing, I think, it opens up a whole different conversation with the younger voters who don't see him as Darth Vader. Look, I will lean to Donnie on this because I think the Clinton Gore team was one that I thought was sort of a signaling something different, a youthfulness. It was signaling a value and a move forward. I hate this idea that they're doing all this electoral politicking about which state puts in play. I'd much rather them think thematically about what it is they want to sort of put forward. The way I thought, tip to the hat to you, that I thought that Clinton Gore put forward.
Hey, so Tim, you're the comms guy in this group. So you bring together the combination of strategy of Cornell, branding, and messaging from Donnie. As a comms guy, looking at the VP rollout, looking at the momentum and all the things we've been talking about. What's your take? I mean, she's got some very effective communicators out there right now and around her, and the governors and so forth. How do you see all of this kind of coming together as she names her VP nominee and roll into that convention?
Yeah, look, I agree with Cornell. I think the brand thing is important, and just kind of sending a message that this is a future ticket. So I think that if you get that as a baseline, then you get into the communication side of this and how you can kind of advance this message further. And in 2024 in particular, the one big thing that's different from the 92 race, no offense, Donnie, is that there's just all these other places where you can talk to people. People you want, and voters expect to hear from you on TikTok. They expect to hear these little clips of interviews, and to have somebody that is a deft communicator, that can advance a message that lands with people, that's different than a campaign that's really about the nightly news and TV ads, and so having someone who's a skilled communicator, I think, is really even more important than ever right now. And I just look at the options. I loved how Josh Shapiro has been talking. He's tickling my heart as a former Republican, talking about American exceptionalism, talking about how Donald Trump's been bleat talking America, down talking America. I love that hit. I think he's very deft. Tim Walz, we've been talking about, kind of has more of a Midwestern sensibility. It's like the guy that might fix your carburetor and talks like a normal public school teacher. I like that. Pete, I don't think we can forget Pete. Look, Pete was on Fox this weekend advancing a message very successfully. So I would look at those three, jump out at me as being particularly strong communicators. And I'd want to get them everywhere next week, to trickle down to people's feeds.